I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer at Gold Derby, and I am joined today by Emmy nominee and Guild winner Thomas Denier Jr., who just received his 4th career Emmy nomination in the category of Best Prosthetic Makeup for his work as a special makeup effects department head on the 3rd and final season of FX's Pose. First off, congratulations on your Emmy nominations, Thomas. Before this year, you had received 3 nominations for Saturday Night Live. So how does it feel to be welcomed back a 4th time and for the TV Academy to not only recognize your individual work on Pose, but to bid goodbye to the show as a whole by giving it its most nominations ever for a single season?
I feel greatly indebted to makeup department head Sherry Lawrence, Ryan Murphy, and the whole production team over at Pose. It's one of those jobs that is very unassuming, and I work on so many episodic television and also film. So at the time, you don't really think about what is transpiring and what they're asking you. And it's just like anything, everything becomes another contract, another job. So you really don't know. So you do your best work and you try to get, everything, you meet your deadline. Because, in New York, we don't really have the liberties that other places do for some reason, because they really love to rub the New York Minute in our face. Oh, wow. So I would get a week to prepare for things. And then on the day, and it's just me. I mean, I'm going up against giants in the industry. And then, so when you say makeup department, special makeup effects department head, you're looking at the department. It's just me.
Right.
But like anything, I really love what I do. And Sherry Lawrence, when she approached me about Jeremy McClane's character Cubby going through this horrible, traumatic, endeavor, basically the end of his life. So I did a lot of research on AIDS patients, and and whenever you do research, especially I do a lot of research for like trauma and things like that. It's there are things that, thank God for the internet for providing me with this reference to look at, but there are some things you can't unsee, and maybe people should see these things just to remind you of how fragile human life is. But before I get into that whole diatribe, but I really was proud when Sherry said, "I'm going to submit you." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
I didn't think I had a chance in the world. And then she's like, "I'm on my way flying to Alaska for my brother's wedding, and I'm sitting in the airport in Chicago waiting for my transfer." And I get a text from Sherry Lawrence, like, "You've been nominated." I was like, I'm going to my brother's wedding and I got nominated. So I feel very fortunate. So.
Yeah, congratulations. And you already alluded to your Emmy submission, but before we get into that, I would like to start on a more general note and ask if you could elaborate on what your job as the special makeup effects department is on Pose, what it looks like, what does it entail, and what is some of the dialogue that happens between you and the makeup department head, Sherry Lawrence, who you've already mentioned.
Well, what Sherry will call me on any particular, it's not like, as a special makeup effects, you're not there every day.
Yes.
But she'll contact me when she needs me. And like I said, I could be working on other endeavors at the same time. So she'll call me, she'll tell me what they have in mind, what they want to see. And then she'll send me pages and I read it and I break it down. But the one thing that I really like to do, because the bottom line is the makeup department head, and I'm essentially a subcontractor. So I have to work with the department head that hires me, and I want to know what their vision is, how they see this. So I find it very important to collaborate with your department head, even like have them jump in, like Sherry jumped in and say, "Can you do a little bit more shading here?" I go, "Well, here's a brush. I have no ego to bruise. Come in, show me what you're looking for, and then we follow through, and I will work with the artist that way." But it's up to me to do all the life casting, all the prepping, get sculpting, mold making, casting up the pieces, getting them ready. So prior to all that, like I said, I because I've worked at SNL for so many years and I still work there, and it's awesome. They got nominated too.
Yes.
Not in prosthetic though, but So I've learned a lot from Louis, good friend of mine, Louis Carrion, and like I said, I've been there for a while. So the timing thing, like I'd tell somebody, well, I have to come up with this, this whole AIDS, this horrific makeup, and people are saying, well, how much time do you need? Well, I don't get that much time, so I have to manufacture, soup to nuts inside of maybe 4 to 5 days. Yeah. So and then once I have all the pieces manufactured, then I go on set, apply it anywhere from 2 to 3 hours for application.
And you had already mentioned your research and preparation process. What exactly did it look like after you read the script for this episode? And obviously the AIDS epidemic has been tackled countless times on the big and small screens. I mean, Ryan Murphy himself did it on The Normal Heart. Russell T Davies did it recently on It's a Sin. So when you're conducting research on a topic like this, do you lean into some of the past work that has already been done, or do you try to keep your process and your research separate from that and tackle it afresh?
What I actually do is, yes, I'll look at other makeups that people do, but I try not to draw from that. I'd rather go from real life. And if somebody has presented, say, an AIDS makeup, I go, how would I do that differently? How would I improve on a good idea already? And also, how would I top a brilliant execution? So I draw from inspiration, and I just go back from when I was younger and say, what do I want to see? Why am I doing this? And I want to fool the illusion and create this, and makeup doesn't mean anything unless you have a performer who can wear this and convey it and bring it to life. I mean, you got a guy dying, sitting like Jeremy McClane, the actor who played Cubby. He did an amazing job. And after seeing the scenes with him going through this trauma and eventually succumbing to his illness, stepping out of it, when you're on set and you're watching this, all you're looking at is the monitor. You're looking at your work. So you're not really listening to dialogue. You're focusing, is that an edge? Is that shading right? Is that light? But then I stepped back, and a couple months later, I watched the episode, and I was like, I was emotionally drawn in. Because I grew up in New York in the '80s, and I have a lot of friends that come from that scene, and I know the pain that they've gone through. I know the history of New York is basically, the forefront of the whole, LGBT, the transgender, the whole thing. I mean, it started with Stonewall, and New York is the apex. And when Ryan Murphy and set up this whole thing in, it takes place in New York with the drag community, and it was almost, I was like stepping back in time, going, "Oh my God, where are my friends to give me drink tickets and say hello to me?"
Yeah.
So it was kind of very. I knew where it was coming from, and I've heard a lot about the pain and people that were lost and people that I've known, and good friends of mine, that I've known for a long time that are gay, and they've lost, lovers and friends over the years. And so I have a somewhat intimate perspective of it. I mean, I'm not gay myself, my girlfriend, but I'm an artist, entertainment. So we're all black sheep as far as society is concerned. So we all unite in that way. So surrounding myself with these artists and these entertainers and these creative people, and seeing a lot of the stress, of the duress and pain that they went through. So I drew from a lot of that too. So
Yeah, that's incredibly interesting. Thank you for shedding light on that. And we've alluded to it now several times. So your episode submission is the season 3 premiere titled On the Run. And in that episode, of course, you had to design a AIDS deathbed look for Cubby, played by Jeremy McLean. So could you talk me through the process of creating this very look and what exactly that process entailed?
Well, the first thing that would happen is once everything gets approved and they want to go ahead with it. So I schedule a life cast session with Jeremy. Jeremy comes in. I I do it in the trailer now with all the materials. With the advent of silicone materials, you don't have to have the artist come to your shop because that's expenditure on the studio. That's more expenditure and travel and everything. So just go right there, and I do a life cast covering the head. I don't know if you're familiar with the process at all, but you basically have to make a mold of a person and grab and capture their features. So once I have that mold, I take it back to my lab, and then I pour out what's called positives. And on these positives, which I break down into certain sections. So I did cheekbone, I did a jawbone, like all around here was all rubber and silicone, and fake eyebrows at the top, and also teeth. And Zach, the contact lens guy, made these wonderful cataract, definitely contact lenses. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but so I would break down this process into these sections. So I'd have a section of this in what's called a cylinder, probably be about that big around, right? Using materials, we can go old school, use cement, or we could use the temporary materials, urethane. So regardless of what you use, the end justifies the mean. So with these sections, I would then sculpt out the pieces, but I would float these pieces off, and I would put them on a full bust of Jeremy's head and gently place the clay around. And I would blend it all down and paint it up, and then submit that for approval so they could see what it is. And then I would have to again remove that and put that. I should rephrase that, because I would do that before I put it on the cylinders. So I would make his head first, sculpt onto that, and then float that off, and then put those on the cylinder pieces for the individual prosthetics to be molded. And that approval, yay, thumbs up, take the pieces, and you start putting them through the works. So you put them back down, you correct them, you do all your mold walling and cutting edge things for all of those prosthetic nerds out there. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Make the molds, and then do the casting in silicone using flat sil gel 10 I use, which is pretty standard. I mean, some people like to use gel 25, but there are a lot of, but definitely silicone. And I've done so much silicone running. It's I've been doing this for so long. It's second nature to me. Like they're not even thinking. They're like watching a TV. So it becomes second nature. And then once I have the pieces, so go in then maybe a day or 2 days later, and you go and you do a test makeup. Do the test makeup. You're looking for flaws and defects. So what are you going to make better? Maybe this has to be blended more. If you have to go back and possibly resculpt the piece just to make it flow better, just so it makes sense. Colorizing. What colors are you choosing? How's it? So test makeups are extremely, extremely important. I can't emphasize that enough. And I have not had nearly enough tests. Really? It's always going in on the day, and they want it. How fast can you do it? We didn't even do a test. I'll give it to you when I can. I know. I work at Saturday Night Live. You expect me to get it done in a commercial break. But yeah. So that's one of the disadvantages of when people hear that you work for Saturday Night Live. They think that you we could do it. We prefer not to do it.
Yeah.
But and so that's the whole process. But that process of fabricating takes about a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and application is anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, depending on, of course, the size of the pieces.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing the look on Cubby for the first time, and I was completely taken aback. So all the work really translate. And even though we bid goodbye to Cubby in this episode, it's also one of the first times we really get a small storyline, or he gets a small storyline of his own. So how do you make sure that the look you create or had created on him was striking and authentic, but also did not distract from Cubby and his storyline, and still allowed Jeremy as an actor to still do his job?
What would be the best way to describe that? It's because you want to convey your look, your image, but you also want to have the actor to be able. You still want to see the actor in there. You want to have the actor to be able to emote and do, like I always say to an actor, let me know. I don't want you to work around the makeup. I want my makeup to work with you or work around you. You should not be distracted by the makeup. And it's like, I've seen makeup people go, well, don't do that. Well, then you're not doing your job, because you're not allowing them to do their job. So you have to keep in mind, you got to just roll with the punches. And you know what? You can't ask an actor not to do that, because that that's like asking an artist, oh, I want you to paint a painting, but you can't use a paintbrush, you know? So, but with a strong actor like Jeremy McClain, who has been so supportive during this whole thing. I posted a few things on Instagram before and after, and Jeremy and I have actually corresponded a couple times, and I have so much respect for him, and being so supportive, and bringing that horrific image to an emotional crescendo. People have contacted me saying, like, you were responsible for that look. I cried watching that episode. I cried. But when I found out it was you, I was like, it alleviated my pain a little bit, because, oh, Tom's a friend of mine and this is make believe. But I love hearing reactions like that. I was like, wow, you actually wept. So that's the really good thing.
Right. It was a very devastating premiere and a very devastating episode for sure. And I think everything really came together beautifully in it. But on a final note, since Pose is now over, and this is a question I like to ask quite often, what did you learn both professionally and personally from the experience of working on this show?
Not to come off sounding arrogant, or like it was like, it just, in this day and age, people have a tendency to prejudge too quickly, and they don't realize. But I am familiar with the community, and I'm so glad what Pose did for the community is bring it out, bring it out and say it to the world. This is what went on. This is what happened. So I was proud of the team, and Ryan Murphy and everybody that worked on the show, and all the main players, that it took this community and they said, hey, this actually happened. It's not fucking make believe. Pardon my language. It's not make believe. You could bleep that out. But it makes people realize. And I'm glad, because we need more people out there, because, I don't look like a makeup artist. I look like I could be a grip, or I work a door at a bar or something. So people have a preconceived notion and prejudge me. Like, well, what do you think I do? I'm a makeup artist. So with this, what Pose did is Pose gave a voice to those that didn't know, like exposed it to people that thought they knew what was going on, but the severity of what was going on, the reality of what was going on. And it's a shame that it only had 3 seasons. So I mean, because there's a very big community out there that would support it, but it is also such a very maudlin tale. It's a very sad tale. And but nobody can deny that, it's, having a loved one that is suffering from an affliction. Um, my father, for instance, he had COVID, and he was in a coma for a month. But when I saw my dad and what happened to him, I was just like, now I know what these people feel like, what the pain that people go through. So, this whole COVID thing is a horrible situation, but I think it's an eye opener for people that never experienced a loved one or family member that is diagnosed with something that potentially killed them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for joining me today and shedding light on this show and on your process. And to our viewers, make sure to check out the third and final season of Pose if you haven't already. And before you leave, make sure to click subscribe. And yeah, thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you, Luca.